Creativity, leadership, and that penalty technique. Those are probably a few of the reasons Bruno Fernandes has been such a big catalyst for change at Manchester United. But apart from those really obvious things, such as his great touch and technique and vision, there are a couple of very specific things that every attacking player can learn from the Portuguese midfield Magnifico. Oh, and let's get the whole name pronunciation out of the way, because most people would probably say Fernandes. Apparently, according to himself at least, it's Fernandes. So that was the first lesson, and here are 3 important things every player should learn from Bruno. First up is Bruno's positioning, which is a broad term describing his ability to be in the right place at the right time. Basically, good positioning means that you know when, where, and how to move on the pitch. And this seems to be one of the best attributes of Bruno Fernandes. See, he understands to drop deep into empty space, which means that he will either drag a defender with him and open up space in behind him for his teammates to run into, or he will have a bit of space and thus time around him to turn and face the goal. And that is where he's dangerous. What we often see is that Bruno drops into what we call the half space, which is the space in between the center and the wing of the pitch. Because dropping into the half space means that you're in a good position to connect with both the central midfielders, the wingers, the striker, and maybe even the fullbacks if they're making runs. And the half space also a little less crowded than in the central areas. So Bruno now has space and options around him, and as a defender, that's not something you want. So what do you do? Well, most teams would try to attack Bruno and close him down. The problem is that because of Bruno's positional awareness without the ball, he's incredibly hard to keep quiet. Because as we can see, the moment he lets go of the ball, he quickly scans the pitch for empty spaces, and then he always changes position with either a deep run or simply by opening up the angles for his teammates. Of course, learning this isn't as simple as watching a YouTube video, but try to keep in mind when you go to the pitch to create space for yourself by dropping into pockets between the lines, use the half space, and then make sure to always move into new positions when you've passed the ball. Pass and move, that's the way to go. Another thing people talk about is Bruno's ability to play the killer passes and create those spectacular game-changing moments. Now, those moments are a result of Bruno constantly looking around the pitch to spot where he can hurt defenders and open up the teams. Let's look at the assist against Leipzig, where he turns and almost blindly makes a perfect through ball to Rashford because he heard Rashford calling for it. And the same thing happened against Newcastle and Wolves, releasing Rashford with a long pass. And of course, there are many other midfielders who could pull off those passes. But the difference is that Bruno has the confidence and the courage to try those high-risk, high-reward things. He has the confidence to take the ball, to turn and look for an opening that no one else might have seen and might seem a little bit ambitious, and if he finds one, he tries to play the pass. Now, admittedly, that doesn't always work, and Bruno makes a lot of mistakes. But that's the thing. Most other players would then just play it safe from there for the rest of the match. But Bruno is always on the lookout and isn't afraid to go for another pass if he spots the right moment. Now, naturally, this doesn't mean that you should go for the killer pass all the time just because Bruno can. Because I think your teammates will pretty quickly get very, very sick of it. But with that said, I think it's worth learning from Bruno that you shouldn't be afraid to try and change the game just because you messed up 10 minutes ago, as long as you just don't go and play those naive Hail Mary passes all the time. And that brings me to my next point. Bruno Fernandes is a winner. That's the reason he doesn't really care about those missed passes, but instead focuses fully on getting the one pass that wins the game. And that's also the reason why he gives himself 100% in everything he does on the pitch. Some people say that he's a natural leader, and when you think about it, who wouldn't follow a guy who sets an example by relentlessly chasing the ball as the first man in the press, making those deep runs again and again, and who's also not afraid of taking one for the team to chase back and stop a counterattack, although he's an attacking midfielder. It's quite simple, really. Bruno has an insane winning mentality, and while his passion might boil over here and there, He fights to the last drop of blood for the team. And I don't care if you play Sunday League as a semi-pro or if you rock up at Old Trafford every other week. If you want to win, you set an example and you work your socks off. That's what Bruno can teach you. So, Bruno Fernandes is one of those players that tries a lot of things, fails a few times, but then keeps going and ultimately pulls off moves that not many other players can. He's a leader, and hopefully you can take a few things away to implement into your own game. But which player should we look at next? Let me know down below. Don't forget to subscribe with the notifications on, and then go improve even more as a footballer in the playlist in the bottom left corner. And with that said, guys, I'll be signing off. Cheerio.